Hey, today's theme is incredible. It is 3 French-produced westerns that I quite enjoyed that star 2 women, with at least one of the women being named Maria. It's the most specific theme I have ever had, and I love it so much. The names of the 3 movies I'm going to talk about are Viva, Maria, Banditas, and The Legend of Frenchy King. First up is Viva Maria. This is a 1965 French film set in Central America, and it stars Brigitte Bardot, I think my 4th one of her, and Jeanne Monroe, my 6th one of her. I love both those actors, and when I found out they were in a movie together, I was like, oh my god, yes, I have to watch this. This looks amazing. And it is amazing. Basically, the premise is these 2 French women meet in Central America and decide to team up to essentially start the sexual revolution in Central America. And then maybe later also start an actual revolution. It's so ridiculous and silly, but just so much fun. It is just, it's a blast. This movie is just great. My only complaint about the movie is that it's kind of long, like it kind of meanders for a bit at times. And part of that could just be because like they're doing strip teases, like not all the way to naked, but like it's not that tantalizing to a modern viewer, like, oh, they're in their bloomers, ooh, scandalous. But the dance scenes were actually really great. My favorite one was both of them were kind of like daring each other to like take off more. They were about to like both take off their tops and they're like facing away from the audience. But then they turn around to face the audience as they're about to reveal themselves. But before they do, they discover that the entire room full of men with like 100 dudes have already taken off their shirts in anticipation of what they're doing. And it was so funny to see 100 thirsty men. I enjoyed this movie a ton. It's a blast, just a really fun adventure movie. I recommend it. I definitely recommend it. It's a blast. I enjoy this movie a bunch. Next up is Banditas. This is a 2006 movie. This movie stars Salma Hayek, my 4th one of her, and Penelope Cruz. It's pretty similar to Viva Maria, but focusing more on like robbery and revolution and not so much a sexual thing, though this movie is way more sexual. The basic premise is it's these 2 women who meet up and join together because American banks are stealing from poor Mexicans, essentially. This movie was also great. My 2 main complaints are the movie felt like an executive was like, hey, we need to make this thing as short as possible to get as many showings in as possible because no one's gonna go see this movie. So they like forced it down to 90 minutes by cutting out a bunch of important stuff. And it felt like a lot of stuff in the beginning was cut out. It just like was flying by way too fast. I'm like, this isn't good. This is bad editing. What is happening? And then the other thing is, so like I said, this is a very sexual movie. The 2 main women are making out with a doofy looking dude for most of the movie, like they're competing over who can make out with him better, and it just kind of screams of like someone's sexual fantasy manifested. But it is funny, and I think that where Salma Hayek and Penelope Cruz were in their careers by this point, they had enough power to, if they didn't want to make out with a dopey looking dude for a movie, they wouldn't have had that subplot. Like they were okay with doing that. So I don't feel bad laughing at the silly make-out jokes. This movie was hilarious. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was great action, just a really fun adventure. Also, if you're a fan of boobs, there is so much cleavage in this movie. It is ridiculous how much cleavage is in this movie. So yeah, I enjoyed this movie a ton. I would recommend it if that sounds like something you're into. Just a fun Western adventure with 2 badass women. Like, it's a good time. And lastly is The Legend of Frenchy King. This is a 1971 French spaghetti western, and it stars Brigitte Bardot again and Claudia Cardinale. The basic premise of this one is a little more different. It's basically like one woman and her siblings, they're kind of good farmer people, and then the other woman and her half-sisters and their bandits kind of meet and clash over some property that they stumbled across. I gave this movie a lot of benefit of the doubt because the copy that I watched was atrocious. It was potato quality, but I can't fault the movie for it having a bad transfer. I was able to get sucked in. This movie's a delight. It's so funny. I really loved there's a sheriff in town who constantly loses everything. Like, he loses his horse like 3 different times. He says something kind of serious and he's like, "Where's my horse? Oh, there's my horse." And then he runs off and chases after it. He's so dopey. And he also he loves both of the main women because how can you not? He just doesn't care that maybe they're doing bad stuff. And he's just great. He's so funny. And I also loved everyone's siblings. They were hilarious. They were just super hot for each other. It was kind of like a Seven Brides for Seven Brothers situation, except less rapey and more thirsty. And it was great. It was just a really fun adventure movie with some pretty solid action. And again, if you like cleavage, there is a lot. Not by Brigitte Bardot, which was really surprising to me because she was like a sex icon in France. It was Claudia. And that kind of also made her big fight scene with Brigitte kind of sexual. That kind of adds an interesting wrinkle to the entire story that oh, they're not just fighting because of whatever, they're actually fighting because they're maybe into each other. Which is something I didn't think about till just now, and that's a really interesting idea, and that makes me like this movie a bit more. But yeah, this movie's great. I don't recommend it, not because it isn't good enough, but because just the quality of the copy that exists is atrocious. It took a lot for me to be able to give it the benefit of the doubt. I don't think a lot of other people will be able to, and they'll do the movie a disservice because it is a really great story. It's just because no one cares about this movie, it doesn't look good. It's still really good though. Alrighty, now for today's rankings. First up, we got Viva Maria, where both of the characters are named Maria. That is sitting at number 74 in the quite like section. And then after that, a seemingly long ways down, is Bandidas, sitting at number 94 in the quite like section. And bringing up the rear, not too far behind, is The Legend of Frenchy King, sitting at number 100 in the quite like section. And this is out of a total of 208 old movies so far this year, and that brings the grand total out of all the movies I've seen so far this year up to 255.